Hello, I'm Kerry and this is What This Week, where I talk about what I've been reading, what I've been listening to, what I've been watching, etc. So I am loving how festive everything is at the moment and I'm really enjoying all of the build up to Christmas. Love Christmas, but there has been a lot of peoply activities, and as an introvert I am feeling really tired. So I'm going to try and be kind to myself today and make this short, both for kind of like the filming point of view, but also for the editing, so that it's a smaller job for me to do later on today, because I have had a really lovely weekend of really fun stuff and I've got a really packed week of loads more fun stuff. But your girl is feeling a little bit tired and my social battery is kind of really struggling, so I'm trying to kind of like claw back some time where I can to be just as a bit of a kindness to myself essentially. So let's see how we go. I'm going to try and be quick, but I've got some really cool stuff to talk to you about, so let's get started. Few things that I've been reading recently. I'm not capturing literally everything that I'm reading and listening to. I'm just taking the highlights because I think it's been a couple of weeks since I did a What This Week. So the first book I wanted to talk to you about that I've read and finished recently is Antarctica by Clarke Keegan. This is her short story collection. So a lot of the, if you know Clarke Keegan, a lot of her novels are pretty short anyway. They're really more novellas, and the beauty of her writing is that she achieves so much in so few words. And I'm not a massive short story fan, but I was obviously intrigued to read more from Clarke Keegan because she's fast becoming a favourite author, but also to see what she would do with a short story, and I really wasn't disappointed. This was a really great collection and I enjoyed most of the stories in this. I think the format of a book as a short story collection doesn't work for me, because I kind of, once you get to the end of the short story, you're kind of like, okay, on to the next, and I'm not savouring it as much as I would a full-length novel. That's nothing to do with this collection, that's just my issue with short story collections in general. But this was super. Clarke Keegan's got this really magical way of taking a snapshot of moments, whether it's kind of interactions with people or an experience of somebody, or somebody's experience of having a memory. You know, just these small moments that she captures and really shines a really bright light on, and it's just exquisite. I just love what she does in her writing. The only thing that I would like to mention is that in terms of trigger warnings, the N-word is used in 2 of these stories, which I think was relevant, but just so that you're aware, it was not the last story, but the 2 before that. So that was the Burning Palms and You Can't Be Too Careful. For the most part, these are set in rural Ireland, but some are also set in America. I'm assuming that speaks of her experiences too. I don't know much about Clarke Keegan as a person. But other than that, I really enjoyed this as much as I possibly can enjoy a short story collection. And at the moment I'm currently reading Placeholders by Roseman. This is just delightful. I can see it really working for fans of Sally Rooney. So it's really about a relationship. It's about 2 characters, Roisin and Aaron, and they meet in a bar and there's like an instant connection. There's real chemistry between them, and we're experiencing kind of snapshots of what goes on between the 2 of them. I wouldn't even call it a relationship per se, from alternating perspectives. Aaron's got a whole load of stuff going on, all tied up with grief for his brother who's died, but there's also kind of like religious and familial and political stuff kind of like feeding into his mental health. He's got really poor mental health where we are in the book at the moment, almost halfway. And Roisin too's got her own kind of like baggage, as we all do, and I think that's what I'm enjoying about this, is that it feels quite authentic in kind of a relationship. I don't like romances, I don't like reading romance books, but this is the kind of relationship writing that I really enjoy, because it does feel like super authentic, and it's not miserable either. It's quite funny, although, you know, everybody's kind of depressed and a bit fucked off with life. The tone is still really light and warm. There's a lot of warmth in this writing. Yeah, so I'm really enjoying this so far, and it's got this super snowy house on the cover. It's not particularly set at Christmas, but that's kind of why I picked it up next. And Ben Reads Good has recommended this, so yeah, I'm delighted to be reading it. This was a proof copy that was sent to me by the publisher fairly recently, so not when it came out in September. Just to be transparent, but yeah, that's Placeholders. Really enjoying that. Okay, so that's reading like physical books. I've been doing quite a lot of audiobook listening too. One book that I've listened to on audio, I also had the physical copy, but mostly listened to it on audio. I took it out from the library, but mostly listened to the audio, and that's The Story of a Heart by Rachel Clarke. So this is a non-fiction book. This is recommended by Jen the librarian, and I know that Joy, a friend on Instagram who also is a great supporter of this channel, thank you Joy, has also read this and really enjoyed it, and it was just superb. It's the best non-fiction I think I've read for a long time. So it's about a heart transplant between two children, which is as devastating and kind of heart-wrenching as it sounds, literally, but it's just so brilliantly written. She tells the story of these two children, the donor and the recipient of this heart, with just such exquisite tenderness and care, but also it's not fluffy, it's very matter of fact, but in the most compassionate way. So she's telling the story of these two children in the lead up to them obviously needing to donate or be a recipient of this heart, and it follows their family and their circumstances right up until after the donation. But and it's as harrowing as it sounds. Like every other page I think I was tearing up, and perhaps every kind of like 10 pages I was sobbing. It is very moving. But Rachel Clarke really skillfully kind of intersperses bits of information about the whole process from start to finish. There is nothing dry about it. It all feels super relevant and it's seamless, but it gives you a moment to take a break from that emotional intensity, which I really appreciated. And I learned so much in a really kind of palatable way. It didn't feel textbooky at all. It felt very kind of authentically interspersed and relevant with the stories that we're learning about these two children. Yeah, it was absolutely brilliant. So even from like there's a car accident at the beginning and a junior doctor happens to be passing on a motorbike and so stops and tries to help the people who are injured whilst they wait for the ambulance. And so it's describing, you know, his experience of what he remembers of that incident, but then it flips to talking about the origins of how we react to trauma as first aiders. So if you've done a first aid course, you'll know that you've got to do ABC. You've got to check your airway, check for breathing, then check for circulation in that order, because it's no good kind of like patching up a bleed on somebody's arm if their airway is blocked and they can't get any breath in. So there's a reason that ABC, airway, breathing, circulation, exists, and there's a whole backstory to how that came about, how we respond to trauma as first aiders was kind of initiated, and it was so fascinating. And then all the way through at each stage of this process, you've got a bit of backstory or a bit more information, or an anecdote, or the account from like the donor nurse or the surgeon, or you know, whoever. It was just so skillfully done and really very beautiful, incredibly moving. Obviously there was quite a lot of crying and sobbing, so we were laughing in book club last month because all of the others were talking about like all of the Hallmark films that they're watching and all of the really festive movies and like cheesy reads that they're picking up at the moment, and I hate that shit. And we were joking. I was saying, well, clearly I'm dead inside because I don't get anything out of those. But it turns out I am not dead inside. This book gave my heart the biggest, most kind of like hardcore workout. It ached. My heart ached. And I did absolutely sob. So there is a beating, feeling heart in there somewhere. It just doesn't respond to Hallmark movies. Yeah, so that was The Story of the Heart. Really, really recommend it. And I would love, I saw somebody else kind of say this, but I would love to see this on the Women's Prize for Fiction Women's Prize for Non-Fiction long list when that comes out next year. Okay, what else have I been listening to? For one of my book clubs, book club 1 of 2, we were reading the Christmas Jigsaw Murders. I'm sorry, I haven't written down who that author is, but I will put a picture of that book up here. And I listened to this on audiobook. The audio production was pretty good, and I thought the book was a jolly time. It was fine. It was a festive murder mystery. It was quite kind of silly and spoofy. Yeah, it kind of met my expectations, I guess. It wasn't kind of extraordinary in any way, but it was a fairly lovely time. It was fine. It was a fine time. And the other book that I have been listening to is Someone Else's Shoes by Jojo Moyes. This book was bought for me by my mother-in-law, I think, for my birthday, so I was really keen to read it before the end of the year. I've never read any Jojo Moyes. It wasn't bad, but I'm not sure that I will read anymore. It was fine. It's about 2 women who accidentally take each other's kind of kit bags home from the gym, and they come from very different backgrounds, lead very different lives, and have very different shoes, and that's kind of the focus. And so one kind of wears dowdy stuff, and she takes home these like really fancy red Louboutin crocodile skin slingbacks, and she's going straight to a meeting, so she has to put them on, and then she has like great success because they give her this confidence, and everybody's kind of like distracted by the shoes and thinks all like she's a woman of means and whatnot. Anyway, so that's her kind of like storyline. And then the other woman who owns the Louboutins takes home these kind of like dowdy pair of shoes, and then unbeknownst to her, her husband's kind of like trying to screw her over. So he's a very wealthy businessman, and he kind of like cuts off her access to any credit cards and stuff, and she's like properly screwed. She's got nothing. She's from America and she's in the UK, so she's got no access to bank accounts, no friends to call, etc, etc. So she kind of gets adopted by somebody working in the hotel and starts kind of like chambermaiding alongside her. And anyway, you know, blah, blah, blah. And it's a nice story. I had a few issues with it. There were some kind of like really questionable plot directions taken. So for example, at one point they have to go to somebody's house because they're trying to get a pair of shoes back from somebody else who's got them. And they're like, okay, we're not going to go and ask for them, because if she says no, then we've got no other options. But instead, we're going to come up with this completely ridiculous, really, really over the top kind of way of trying to get these shoes back instead of just asking. And I just feel like, you know, it would have taken a page worth of writing and dialogue to kind of like get them to go and knock on the door and for the woman to say no, and then they can come up with the elaborate plan to get the shoes back. Like, just do the thing. And another thing, there's quite a big side character that's introduced like halfway through the book, which I found a bit kind of like a bit weird. So like our main character's like, oh, I've got nobody to turn to, everything's awful, there's only one person that I can ask for help in this moment. And you kind of like running through your list of your characters, and she's like, Andrea. Who the fuck is Andrea? Andrea is then like a really significant best friend character that feels like she came out of nowhere. Again, like that could have been a couple of pages perhaps earlier on, like a really nice interaction with those two, and then that would have laid that foundation. I don't know, maybe I'm being picky. Maybe that's not the point. Maybe the point is that it's just supposed to be a kind of like sweet friends kind of finding themselves again, like finding their identity outside of their relationships kind of stuff. And it, you know, did all that. It was fine. It was all right. turns out I have quite a lot to say about this. I didn't feel that I did. But yeah, that was Someone Else's Shoes by Jojo Moyes. So that's what I've been listening to. In terms of what I've been filming, I've tried to kind of like take a bit of a step back from like planning and pushing myself to do stuff for reasons, whether it's like content creation or whatever. In December, I've decided I like hit my reading goal. I'm gonna kind of like take my foot off the pedal and just chill. So I haven't been doing any reading vlogs or anything like that, but I have been filming in the background me opening my book advent calendar every day, which I have to say I am loving. It has been so good, so good. Like all of the books I've opened bar one, I would definitely read. Bar two. So one of them I've already read and really enjoyed, and another one I don't think is for me, but I can think of plenty of people that I think it would be suitable for, so I will be passing that on. But if you think about it, so today is the 16th of December, that's a lot of books, and no duplicates, and all like stuff that I would be really interested in reading. So I'm really, genuinely, really surprisingly happy with it. The other things that I have opened in addition to books, so it's mostly books, but I've also had a packet of fresh coffee, which is super nice, a bar of chocolate, and I feel like there was something else. Oh, a book journal. Yeah, so there's been a couple of things that are books. For the most part it is, but it's just, I look forward to opening it every day. It's totally kind of reignited that spark and excitement of opening an advent calendar. Make it bookish. It was really lovely. Great. Okay, so in terms of what I've been watching, a lot of YouTube. I've been watching so much Vlogmas. There are some brilliant Vlogmas videos coming out, and I am loving all of the ones that I'm watching. Particularly enjoying Yenna's videos at Modern Ajuma. Yenna's, I've only discovered Yenna this year, and all of her videos bring me so much joy. I just love her. So Yenna reads really widely, which is one of the things that I really love about her channel. But as part of that, she does monthly wrap-ups, and the thing that I really love about those is that every review she gives for every book is just as considered and thoughtful and insightful and interesting as the next. So whether she's reviewing like a coffee table book or a piece of literary fiction or a classic or a bit of kind of like fluff, you know, you're kind of someone else's shoes type book, it doesn't matter. She gives every book the same consideration, and I just love that about her. So yes, if you haven't found Yenna's channel, I will link it down below. One of her Vlogmas videos this week, so she's like beautifully chaotic, which is another thing that appeals to me. But one of her videos this week, the title was something like "Nothing Happens in This Video" or something like that, and it was obviously quite a short one. But in it, she was talking about like how, as readers, we can be quite like, many of us are massively introverted, and you know, hello, hey, yes, that's me, and can feel like we've got no friends at the expense of our reading habits. Hello, guilty also. But at this time of year, it's both lovely and a little bit challenging when everything gets like super social. Like I was saying right at the beginning, my social battery is feeling challenged. We are running low. And Yenna was talking about like how it's really nice, like at Christmas, then you know, you're kind of reminded that you're part of all of these snippets of communities, and like, you know, I've definitely felt that, you know, being invited out for different Christmas dinners. I had a Christmas dinner this week and somebody had saved me a seat, and I know, God, at 41, really. But it was touching, and I felt kind of included and valued, and I'm sure I need to see a therapist about my obsession with like having a sense of belonging, because it's such a big deal for me. But yeah, it's important. So anyway, all of this to say that Yenna did this video talking about like how it's lovely to have those opportunities for connection over the kind of like festive period, and kind of like remind yourself of all of those like communities and like friendship groups and so on that you're part of, and to feel all that love and warmth. But it's also a bit kind of knackering, and it can be hard. And she was just talking about it with just so much care and compassion for herself and for everybody that she was talking to. And God, I felt it in my heart. I was welling up. It's meant to be cheerful, Vlogmas, but anyway, interestingly, one of the other videos that I've really enjoyed as part of Vlogmas has been Heather from Heather Reads It All. Is she Heather Reads It All? Heather... Too Many Heathers. No, she's not from Heather Reads It All at all. From Too Many Heathers. So she's done a project this year where she's painted like a watercolour page every time she's cried this year. And it's just beautiful. It's such a good idea. She is so creative, and it was just such a beautiful thing to kind of like look at. And she was like talking through some of her favourites and some of the ones that she's not so keen on, and some of the kind of like most entertaining times that she's cried. I'm seeing a bit of a theme in the stuff that I'm enjoying in Vlogmas, which is kind of misery, isn't it? Merry Christmas. But no, there's some really super content out there at the moment. Anyway, that's as much to say. I will link those two videos in the description below, but I'd recommend checking out both of their Vlogmases. Actually have been really fun. The other thing that's happened this week on YouTube, which has absolutely made my week, is that Aaron Read a Book, or Aaron Read a Book, has taken on my idea of recommending a book from a whole ton of genres. I think when I did my video I was like, every genre. Of course it's not every genre, there isn't an exhaustive list of genres. So he's very sensibly changed it to like over 25 genres or something like that. Aaron has been the greatest support of this channel since I've started it, and yeah, I'm grateful for the opportunity to give him a shout out because he's just been so lovely. So that was so exciting, and the thing that I loved about it was that, so Aaron's reading taste and my reading taste are like vastly different, but I just really enjoy watching his content. He does really interesting Friday reads, and he's really good at kind of like thrifting old really interesting books. So his video perfectly captures his reading tastes using exactly the same list of genres as I did. Mine are vastly different, and I just love that. Like, recommending a book from all of those different genres, you can be as kind of like flexible as you like with those genres to kind of like twist it to capture your reading tastes in a really eclectic and really fun way. I really loved putting my list together. And then not only that, but Gareth from Book Songs and Other Magic then also piggybacked on that idea and has done his own version of that video. So I'm going to link both of those in the description, and my original. Perhaps I'll put my original in the cards as well as the description. But how cool is that? Am I officially a booktuber now because people have like done something that I've done? Is that the rule? I think that should be the rule. I'm officially a booktuber now. But I was just really genuinely delighted. I was just absolutely chuffed to bits. So thank you so much, Aaron, and thank you so much, Gareth. And please, if you fancy doing it, I've already, having watched those two videos now, started kind of like drafting a new version. Gareth suggested maybe doing it every year, and I think that's a really great shout. So I've already kind of like started thinking about books that I've read in the last kind of year since or at least since I made that video, which would fit each of those genres and where I perhaps need to look for something new. Lastly, in terms of what I've been watching and really enjoying, is some content on Instagram from Poppy Cooks. Poppy Cooks has been doing an advent calendar of potatoes, and nothing has brought me more joy than looking and literally salivating at those recipes every day that she's sharing. And they're not just like, here's a roast potato, here's a chip, here's a crisp. She's going hard on those potato recipes, and my god, they all look incredible. So do check out Poppy Cooks advent calendar of potatoes. So that's, I think, all that I plan to catch you up on in terms of reading, listening to, filming and watching. The only other thing that I really cheekily want to tell you about is, if you have been watching for a little while, you'll know that I did a reading vlog in the summer reading ballet books because my brother and sister are both ballet dancers, and I went to watch my brother perform Swan Lake at the Royal Albert Hall in that reading vlog. I'll link that too. Anyway, that performance was recorded, and so a few weeks ago they were showing it in cinemas, and I mentioned it on What This Week, I think, that I went to see my little brother in the cinema. It was epic. It was so cool. So that was amazing. But the plot thickens because BBC are actually going to televise it on Christmas Day. So what all of that is to say that if you are even a little bit interested in ballet, please tune in to BBC Two on Christmas Day and watch English National Ballet's Swan Lake, and give my little brother all of the love that you can possibly summon from your heart and zoom it into the television set, and I know that he'll feel it. Yeah, how amazing is that? He's going to be on the telly on Christmas Day. So yes, if you are a ballet fan, please watch Swan Lake on Christmas Day. That's it from me. I hope you have a really smashing week. I hope that you are being kind to yourself while it's feeling busy and we're feeling pulled in lots of different directions. So regardless of what you've got going on this festive season, whether you're super busy or whether you've got a bit of FOMO, please be kind to yourself. It's tough going, especially at this time of year. So look after yourself, and I will see you again in the next video.